Thank the court for allowing me to speak. I'm Tom Elmore from Moore, Oklahoma. I've been working as an independent transportation analyst for 30 years. I know all of these men. I know their careers. I know what they've done. I know who they are. Much has been made here in the OTA presentation of the vast expertise and discretion of the OTA. Well, that all changed in 1995 when Governor Frank Keating made one man, Neil McCaleb, director of both agencies for the first time. Today, Mr. Tim Gatz, a landscape architect, is director of both agencies. Strangely, the argument is made that we have to build turnpikes because of the financial challenges and so on at ODOT. Mr. Gatz is also director of ODOT. $60 billion in unfunded highway maintenance liability, according to ODOT's chief engineer. And yet when that man changes his hat, he suddenly becomes a big expert with wide powers of discretion to do anything he wants to do with these roads, where these turnpikes, where he is apparently making money hand over fist for the OTA's anonymous investors. It is amazing to me the refusal to challenge elected government to call the trucking industry to account for massive unrepaid costs on the state's public roads. And I interject this because the last numbers I saw for cost recovery from heavy commercial trucks, understanding that a standard semi operating at its maximum legal weight, 80,000 pounds, is said by the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials to inflict pavement damage statistically equivalent to 9,600 automobiles, one truck. And yet on the public roads, the last numbers we saw were less than 3 cents a mile recovered from those trucks on the state's public roads, while, to use the Turner, the same truck can pay no less than 20.8 cents a mile. But the same man is director of both agencies. And under his direction, the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, by the way, the State Transportation Commission, 3 of the individuals populating that commission today, 2 are intercity truck line CEOs, and 1 has a company that operates heavy drilling equipment over all Oklahoma roads. Is anybody on the commission looking out for the public's roads and the public investment? And while they're pounded into gravel and debt is racked up, this is used by the very same director to justify, well, we have to do it with turnpikes. This is the guy that steals your sandwich at lunch and then helps you look for it. In 1991, ODOT Director Bobby Green warned that taxpayers of Oklahoma were forced to fund their own endangerment by the trucking industry on their own roads, and that due to the massive unrepaid costs visited on those roads by the trucking industry, by that time, ODOT had already gotten to the place where it could neither replace nor even repair the public's roads. Director Green made a plea for accurate cost recovery from elected government. These folks have made no such plea. And so we continue to rack up debt on the public roads, and that debt is used to justify more turnpikes. In 1996, Neil McCaleb, Frank Keating, Tom Cole et al. Shepherded through the famous billion-dollar highway package, which, as far as I understand, for the first time included about $300 million in bond indebtedness because they couldn't get to $1 billion through regular appropriations. Thanks to Jerry Fent, that measure came before this court. Well, ultimately, the vote went for, but the Chief Justice was reported as saying, well, we need good roads, don't we? While Justice Alma Wilson said, this is evil. It will lead to more evil. Did we get better roads? In 1996, we were said to have $11 billion in unfunded maintenance requirement on the state's public roads. Truck traffic stood at 5.6 billion vehicle miles traveled annually. In the wake of that measure, $40 billion in unfunded maintenance requirement and 13.4 billion vehicle miles traveled on the state's major routes by heavy trucks, very clearly hastened by the decision of the Supreme Court to allow this thing to go through. Jesus of Nazareth said this. He said, "No man can serve two masters." Implied in his statement is this: when some man comes to you and tells you, as Director Gatz does, well, I'm serving two masters, one of those masters is getting the short end of the deal. Do we figure that the ones getting the short end of the deal are the anonymous bond investors of the OTA or the happy taxpayers? $60 billion admitted by ODOT in unfunded highway maintenance requirement on the public's roads. It's bad enough. It's bad enough that Turnpikes thinks it can do anything it wants to do anytime it wants to do it. But worse yet, it's the same people at ODOT who keep racking up this debt and refuse to get the same return on the public's roads that they give to their anonymous investors from the heavy trucking industry. Thank you for your patience with this. And we would urge that this matter be declined. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elmore.